Broncos All-Pro linebacker Von Miller wrote a piece for Time about the ongoing protests and call for social justice and change. Miller was very optimistic, saying, quote, "This time may be different. This time, many of the protesters are not black. This time, the entire country is engaged. This time, the entire world has taken notice. We have really begun to talk with each other, not just at each other." Shannon, do you agree with Von Miller?
I do. And Skip, before he wrote this piece, I talked to Von last week.
You did?
My phone rings, and I'm looking at it. I don't recognize the number. So you know what I do, Skip? I let it ring.
Yep.
Text message comes in. Unc, it's Von. Oh, okay. Call you back. What's on your mind, bro? He's like, Unc, I want to say something. He said, I need to say something, but I want to make sure I don't ramble, I don't babble, and people get the message I'm trying to convey. I said, well, Von, sit down. Think about how you want to say it and just speak from your heart. I said, it resonates with people more if you can speak from personal experience, things that you've experienced, things that you've seen, and just let it happen. He's like, he said, what happened touched me differently. It hit all of them was tragic. He said, but there's just something about this.
Yep.
He just says, I gotta say something, but I just want to make sure I'm saying it in the right way. I said, nephew, you'll be all right. I said, just let your heart speak, and you'll be fine. And he called me. He texted me. He called me back. He said, I wrote some things down, kind of rough estimate, rough draft of what I wanted to say. Tell me what you think. I read over it a couple of times.
He sent it to you.
He sent me not the entire piece, but kind of rough draft of kind of where he wanted to go with this. Gave him the thumbs up. I gave him the praying hand.
Okay.
And I agree with him, Skip. This seems so different. This seemed like this was the event that's going to finally get us to have a line of communication, and things are going to change. I really believe things are going to change this time. Maybe I'm oh, how about this, Skip? I'm cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
More optimistic than I've been in a very long time. But back to Von's piece, Skip, Von doesn't do a whole lot of talking. That's not, and I've talked to him a little bit when I would go back there and I would talk to him and he would ask me, to be a Bronco and to be a leader and to be in the community. Is like, what do he need to do and how does he need to handle himself? Mm-hmm. Von has matured an unbelievable, Skip. He's come a very, very long way. From where he was in the beginning to where he is now is a complete 180. And to have him speak on an issue and have him lead the protest and have him to be so actively involved, I'm very proud of what he's become. But Skip, this is him. I didn't weigh in. I didn't chime in or I didn't say anything. I just listened, and I just gave him some advice of how he should go about it. And what you see, I recommend you read the article because this is from Von Miller's heart.
So here's what got me. When I was on ESPN back 2011, 2012, somewhere in there, a couple times we had Von on the show. It was no good. It was pulling teeth.
He very shy. He very
tried and tried. How about this? And you reach over there and you try over here. It's like, give us something. Give us just a little nugget of something. Nope, nothing. Closed up. All cliches. Couldn't remember a thing he said. We're trying and trying, and finally you just give up and say, thank you very much, next.
Right.
When I read this last night, I said, this came from him? I did not know he had that in him. Von Miller has writing talent. I know he's written poetry. This is prose, and it is beautiful, and it is powerful, and it's insightful, and it's hopeful, which I appreciated. It's hopeful. In the end, it's not doom and gloom.
Right.
It gave me some heart that I needed, because we go back and forth feels like a tipping point.
It does.
Feels like a turning point.
It really
feels
does,
like a watershed moment in the history, not just of the country, maybe of the world,
Right.
but certainly of our country.
Because it's forced other countries to address their issues on racism.
Correct.
You hear London, you hear Australia,
Correct.
you hear the Netherlands, you hear all these other countries say, you know what? It's just not in America. It's here also that the darker race people experience racism.
Right.
So it's forced the world to look at its own behavior.
Right. It took a video of a white cop in Minneapolis, Minnesota,
Yes.
arrogantly and smugly, basically executing a black man in broad daylight.
Yep.
It took that for everybody to sit back and say, that can't happen again. That's enough. So I'll speak for the white community, and I'm probably stereotyping here, but when Trayvon Martin happened and Eric Garner happened and Michael Brown, we could go on. When all those things happened, to me, the general conclusion of the white community was, oh, that's too bad.
Right.
Next, next. Okay. You took it one way. The white community is like, oh, that's too bad, Shannon. Okay, what else do I have to do today?
Right.
Then that happened, and the white community suddenly said, my God, seriously? That can never happen again.
Right.
So I appreciated that Vaughn pointed out that this feels different because the protesters, many of the protesters are not black, said Von Miller. Thank you. First thing I said to you going back 2 weeks ago was, Shannon, I'm just eye testing my TV, but I'm saying, wow, this is shocking. This is pleasantly surprising to the point of shocking.
Right.
It looks like these are Southern California protests. It looks like they might even be a little whiter than black.
Right.
Good.
Yep.
Now, they're young white for the most part.
Right.
But it's showing you there's this generation of white kids, and they're saying, this can't happen again.
Right.
And as you know, they're going to have children pretty soon, and they're going to teach their children correctly.
Yes.
And maybe slowly but surely you can weed out some of the races,
Right.
some of it. Some of it's in place right now, and so it's hard to prevent going forward.
Right.
But at least the racists in place right now, have they had their eyes and their ears opened a little bit?
Right.
Maybe, because before, all these murders of black men and women, unarmed black men and women by white cops, just went in one eye and out the other for the most part.
Right.
But to Vaughn's point, maybe this is different. It feels different. And you've said a dozen times over the last couple of weeks, you'll believe it when you see it.
Yes. Yes.
But everybody is now ripe for change.
Yes.
Everybody's open to change. Everybody is embracing, we got to get this right, and we have to reform, change,
Right.
change.
Right.
Right?
The system needs to be dismantled. The institutions that harbor this needs to be dismantled. And that if people say, well, defund the police officer, well, let's look at it as a tax cut. Like when they defund education skill,
Yeah.
it's a tax cut. When they take welfare, when they take food stamps, they call it a tax cut. So we're just going to tax cut it. We're going to reform it. We're going to make sure that it's in place, and it's the police and protect and serve everyone. And you can't be weaponized. Someone calls, say, black man, angry, all that stuff. You can't come guns drawn. So no. There's some things that needs to be done from a systemic point of view and from an institution. Because don't think these institutions, Skip, these institutions were built on racism.
Okay.
Piece by piece, we're going to dismantle it.
Piece by piece. But I underline the fact there are racist police officers in place right now, and it's hard to get them out. It's very difficult to change their complete
Skip,
mindset.
we're going to see what you want to do is start a registry.
Yes.
So now we can have a situation so we'll get you fired over here and then you pop up somewhere else and kill somebody and we didn't know. No, Skip, it's just like if you get arrested, you go to jail, guess what they do? They take DNA. They take fingerprints. You in the registry.
Okay.
APHIS, the data bank.
Yep.
So we're going to have a data bank where you bums. You do that stuff over there in Minneapolis or Chicago or Detroit or even a small rural town. Nah, you going to the data bank, bro. We're going to know where you go. We're going to be able to track you.
Okay. So.
Because the guy that killed George, Skip, how you get convicted 7 times? How do you have 16 citations?
16?
16. And they still hired him. And then you see the police officers in Buffalo that shoved the old man down. Yeah. And then you get the police union chief in Florida talking about, we'll hire you. You see?
By the way, they shoved down a 75-year-old white man.
Yeah. And then you got somebody spewing talking about he was a provocateur. And they didn't really shove him that hard. So what we doing about that blood that's spilling out the man's head?
He cracked his head open on the
So what we going to do about that? Maybe that was tomato paste. But.
Yeah. I don't know. So I want to say bravo to Vaughn.
Yes.
And I want to say bravo to Unc for encouraging Vaughn. You were his muse on this, right? You were his editor.
Skip, it's funny that you say that because when first time I met him, he barely said anything. Can you, Skip, you know, hey, I'm back home in Denver. I'm 100 miles an hour. They've heard all the stories. Steve Antonopoulos, he just retired. He's been there 40 years. And they've heard, and the equipment guys, they've been there. So they know me. They know my personality. So, and Koob, as a matter of fact, Koob was the head coach.
Kubiak.
So, yeah, Gary Kubiak. So everybody knew me. And I'm talking and he, how you doing, Mr. Sharp? Man, you better not call me no, you better call me Shannon. So to see this, I agree with you, Skip, to see that, but when he's talking to me, I'm like, is this really you?
Yeah.
Is it really you? Because I don't get that from you. But to feel the passion in his voice, to hear it just, I said, okay, this is going to be good. And he wrote something earlier, and the Broncos posted on their website. I think the Post carried it also. But this is a different Vaughn. This is not the Vaughn of 2011, 2012.
Yep.
This is a grown, mature, awoke young man.
Well, I hope this is a new day.
It is. I hope so too. Skip, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Good.
I'm cautiously optimistic.
Well said, Vaughn. And Shannon, lesson learned. Just answer your phone.
No. Don't call me. You better block that number.
A lot of people have stuff to say.